Can we talk?
Can we talk?
Can we talk?
¿Podemos hablar?
Can we talk?
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Can We Talk podcast. This is Lily, the Community Outreach Educator with the Colorado River Regional Crisis Services, and October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have a really special episode today. We have a special guest with us, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Courtney Kom. I'm the Executive Director of PAACE, or the Parker Alliance for Community Empowerment.
Awesome. Thank you. So while this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, it is also Substance Abuse Awareness Month. Did I say that correctly?
Substance Abuse Prevention Awareness Month.
Perfect.
Or either combination, I think is totally fine.
Awesome. Well, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the intersection between domestic violence and substance misuse and alcohol misuse. So before we go any further, would you start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Courtney Kom. I am the current Executive Director of PAACE, but I've actually worked at PAACE for a little over 10 years now. I started back in 2015 when it was the 20th anniversary of PAACE. And this year we're celebrating 30 years of bringing education to youth in our community for drug-free, violence-free community is our mission. And PAACE really works with the youth in our community, ages 10 to 17 primarily, but we do a plethora of things. We primarily do Red Ribbon Week for the county. We do any kind of substance abuse prevention education piece for the youth across the county. So where we are the Parker Alliance for Community Empowerment, we really serve all of Paz County. So we're really proud to do education pieces in every corner. I think we've reached just about every single school, and we have an education piece that happens every year in every school across the county. So we're really proud of that. We're expanding our services constantly. We have a parenting program that we provide across the county. We do SEL learning. So it's a program called Lions Quest with our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders at Wallace Elementary. And we're also taking on even more somehow. And now we're going to be doing actually teen pregnancy prevention
awesome.
Through the county, as well as we're going to be starting up a La Paz County Youth Council with representatives from every corner of the county for our teens. We're going to just be doing a lot more community service projects in every corner, and PACE as a whole is just interested in serving the youth and providing education to them and just encouraging them to live a drug-free, violence-free life.
That's so awesome. So you guys are like us and always busy and always taking on new projects.
Something going on.
I know you guys also run the
Players 9th Street Youth Center.
9th Street Youth Center. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Players is the only youth center actually in all of La Paz County, which is kind of cool. We're open Monday through Friday. Our offices of PACE reside in the youth center, so there's literally always someone there. But the youth come after school 3 to 6. We do all kinds of programming. We have video game tournaments. We have sometimes we lock them out of the youth center and make them go play outside in the park. That's one of our outside go play days. We try to implement a mental health Monday every once in a while where we turn off the lights and do calming activities with the kids. We can provide anything that you can think of, really. We do tutoring, help, homework, help with any of the kids who need it. And we just want to provide a safe, fun place for them to go after school, to hang out with their friends. We also have what we call the Volunteer program, which is a work enforcement entry program for our youth. So they learn how to work a register, work with customers, often the most difficult customers because they're all junior high kids. So they learn how to deal with customers. They learn how to prepare foods. We have them get their food handler's card. They learn first in, first out. So we're just trying to prepare them for the workforce, how to properly clean things. You're welcome, parents. And it's just a blast. So if you haven't been to the youth center anytime recently, I really highly recommend you go in there and check it out. We've got some really cool stuff. We're always trying to improve things. And that's in large part to those who are amazing and donate to us. So we appreciate that tremendously. But yeah, if you haven't stopped by in a while, I recommend coming over and hanging out, playing some air hockey.
I feel like every time I come by, there's something new, either a new banner or prop or
I think we've painted every wall in the youth center since I started there. So adding grass outside. And then we got to the point where like, you know what, we're going to paint the sidewalk too.
I love that.
Why
and
not?
The mural outside.
Yeah.
Love all of that.
That was fun. We're hoping to do a couple more projects like that coming up soon too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, since October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month and Substance Abuse Prevention Awareness Month, let's talk about the connection between the two. So, in your experience, how do drugs and alcohol often play a role in DV situations?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that you guys and your agency see firsthand of that. PACE does more of the prevention side, right? So we want to give them skills and ways to resist drugs and alcohol and to stay away from that. But, you know, personal experience, and I'm sure most of the cases that you see, there's a direct correlation in a lot of ways. And drugs and alcohol, although it doesn't cause domestic violence, it's a huge risk factor in that area. Because simply, anytime you put any substances within your body, it changes the way that you act and react to situations. So particularly for youth, why we try to urge them to not drink or do drugs really early is because the frontal part of your brain is still developing. And that's a piece that has to do with judgment and decision making and irrational decisions. And as we've seen, you know, through experiences, when you are altering that piece of your brain and you're under the influence of something, you're not often in control of your actions, and that can often lead to a connection to violent actions. So, you know, it's really important to be able to understand how sobriety can positively affect, you know, survivors and the situations that they find themselves in. And we just want to make sure that people understand that when you put something in your body, it alters the way you think and the way you process. And even the most gentle giants can react in different ways. And so I think that that's definitely a huge risk factor in that area.
Absolutely. So let's say we have a client who's not within the youth aid range, but they're looking for resources for substance misuse. Is there any resources you guys have for that?
PACE particularly doesn't have a whole lot of resources for, I guess we are the resource that directs them to other resources, right?
Perfect.
So we want to make sure that they understand where they might be able to find an AA meeting in town. And we can provide those resources for them. We want to make sure that they understand where they can find counseling, if they are a survivor, where they can get resources with you guys. So in that regard, anybody outside of like the youth specter, we kind of just try to provide as many resources or direct them in the right way as possible. But we don't currently provide any services in those areas. And even for our youth, after kind of use is established and there might be an addiction there or an addiction that they're trying to fight, we have to kind of refer them out to others, just because we don't have the capacity to take on the treatment side of the services as well. But yeah, we just want to be a resource for everybody and try to direct them where they might get the best help and the quickest help possible.
That's awesome. We kind of talked about this, but what are, in your opinion, some misconceptions people might have about the link between substance misuse and DV? Yeah,
so I think the direct misconception is causation, right? So like it doesn't directly cause domestic violence. It can be, like I said, a risk factor. It can be a contributing cause as to why people act out. But substance use isn't going to be that automatic correlation, right, to a sad situation. There are a lot of connections to the two. And I think there's, like I said, a lot of instances where, but it's not going to be the sole reason why. And I think that's important for people to connect to, right? Because we want to make sure that they're not just utilizing substances as an excuse for actions that are happening. We want to make sure that we're healing people in all the ways that they need to be healed, and them understanding what their actions might look like under the influence of something.
Sure. Yeah. Correlation does not equal causation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, our agency, like you said, oftentimes we do see a correlation of survivors coming through that either is suffering with substance misuse themselves or the abuser is dealing with substance misuse. And that becomes a really tough situation for us to navigate because we don't specifically have services for substance misuse. we oftentimes have to refer out, especially if the client has substance misuse. Thankfully, we have some great connections with resources that they can go to another program outside of the community, get the help and services they need there, and then return back to our shelter and our services once they feel ready for that.
Right.
And I know oftentimes it prevents them from being in the right headspace to really be ready to leave the situation or seek services. And it causes a whole other barrier to making that jump because, the abuser could be their supplier or they're held. If I don't sell for my abuser, then I'm, potentially could get killed or.
Right. There's so many layers there with the interception of those things. And, like you kind of mentioned it yourself, they have to find the strength to be able to overcome more than one thing, which is really difficult, like first and foremost, just trying to make the decision to leave, but then the consequences that come with those decisions. Sometimes people don't have the choice in that situation,
right?
Which unfortunately keeps them in a cycle of abuse, and it keeps them in a cycle of addiction because they don't know about the resources that might be able to help them, which is why I think the education piece is just so important. And although we don't really have a whole lot of resources in Paz County for the treatment side, and we have to refer out a lot, which can be heartbreaking sometimes because we want to be able to serve our community. I know that by being able to connect them, sometimes getting out is a good answer and is something that they might need in the moment that they might not otherwise be able to do. But with the prevention piece for both DV and for substance uses, it's important to educate them on what their options actually are because a lot of people feel helpless and a lot of people feel stuck. And it's about helping them get out of that cycle and understand that there are a lot of things available for them if they're willing to take the jump or are able to.
Yeah. And being in a small community like La Paz, I think, can make it even harder because everybody knows everybody. And let's say that this person does decide to seek treatment or seek shelter, it's their presence is going to be noticed that they're not there or a difference in behavior. So it definitely makes it harder in small communities like ours, but I also think it can be kind of a light as well being in a small community because everybody knows everybody. We know each other on a personal level rather than just through agencies. And I think that is a great opportunity for collaboration through our community is, we can call each other and say, I have this situation. Are you able, do you have any resources that we can give this client and vice versa? So I think that's really helpful too.
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm a transplant into Parker. So I didn't grow up here. And so I am from a community that was a lot bigger. And I don't know if I would have known, even at a teenage level, what resources were available in my community. Whereas our youth are privileged to receive information regularly. Like you go to the schools, PACE goes to the schools. We have a lot of organizations who are really reaching out to these students and a lot of opportunities that they have, the youth primarily. And we have a lot of really great community projects and a lot of community resources available. Yeah. The youth center, the community center, your office here. We have a lot of events where we're able to table and to kind of get that information to people who need it. And I think that's something to be celebrated and something that a small community really has to offer, whereas they might get lost in the shuffle of some of the other things. And with a small community, people might notice the behavior shift and be willing to say something to someone privately and say, hey, I've noticed this. How are you? Like, what are you doing? And it's more genuine than just the, big city life.
For sure. Yeah. That's kind of a perfect transition into my next question. So obviously PACE works really closely with the youth. How would you approach a conversation with a youth who says that they're suffering or experiencing substance misuse or alcohol misuse?
So if we have a student who is currently struggling, then we would look into identifying, first and foremost, I try to to ask them who their adults are, right? Like, so who are your trusted adults? Who do you feel like you can communicate with? We provide a lot of information for like text line services, especially in the realms of vaping and communicative pieces for just whatever the kids want to talk about. There's a lot of resources, especially in Arizona, for some of those text lines for them to be able to share information with people without them feeling like everybody needs to know what's going on. But we really try to contact the adults in their lives and see what we can do about moving forward with getting them the help that they might need, whether, it's counseling services or whether we're just constantly checking in on them, providing them opportunities to understand how their brain works, and really understanding what addiction is and what that looks like. I wish we had more. I wish we could do all of the things. I feel like we're constantly trying to bring in new programs and new things, in terms of like the treatment side of things. We don't really have those resources, unfortunately. We just try to kind of push them out and to where they need to be, right? So we don't want it to be ignored. We don't want it to be dropped. We want it to be addressed in the most efficient and helpful way possible. For some kids, that's a text line. That's, them doing it privately. For others, it's needing to go away for a while. But we have a lot of really great resources within the tribes too. So we try to work with like CRRCS if students need counseling, or we talk with probation if they've been caught doing something. We try to help them in whatever way that we possibly can. I just wish we could do more.
Yeah, I know. I relate to that a lot. I just out of my own curiosity, is there like vaping or weed, or is there some substance that you're seeing a big increase in our youth right now in the area?
Vaping is huge. So our top 3 substances in La Paz County that our youth are using are alcohol, marijuana, and vaping products. So nicotine. Marijuana is being used in higher levels in La Paz County than at the state. When you look at everything kind of across the board, things are trending downward. That's a positive, right? That's something that we're excited about. As someone who does presentations in the classroom, like that's a trend you want to see. But unfortunately, what that does is when community members who may not be as educated in the way that those statistics work see trends going down and staying at lower percentages, they then correlate that to no problems, right? And that's just simply not the case, right? So we can see a reduction in use, which is what we're working for. Like, I think that is, like if I see in the last 10 years a reduction, I feel like I've done my job at PACE to educate people, because I think education is one of like the most positive ways that you can implement something and see that change. But sometimes people will see lower numbers and be like, oh, cool, it's not a problem anymore. It's like, no, it's constantly a problem. Like there's always any use under the age of the legal level is illegal. Like that's not what we're trying to promote and to produce. But nicotine, vaping has actually gone down a little bit at the high school, but I'm worried that there's a trend coming up on the pouches. So like Zyn pouches, those are a little bit more discreet. They're easier to hide. So I'm a little worried that we're going to start to see that trend in our community. It's kind of trending on the state level. But primarily those top 3, alcohol, marijuana, and vaping. Marijuana is used a lot more when kids get older. So in that 10th, 12th grade, marijuana becomes the number 1 substance that they're using.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some early warning signs you commonly see in adolescents and young people that show they're struggling or at risk?
I think they're the way that they deal with stress. So often people overlook like the high achieving kids. And I think that's one of those places where you need to look because they're dealing with so many stresses, right? Not just pressure from their parents, right? Because that's there for you. They want to succeed. Yeah. I was like a high achieving kid who just like wanted to make everybody proud, right? And that comes with a lot of stress. And with that comes with opportunities for people to potentially misuse substances. And being able to teach kids like resistance skills and strategies to deal with stress. That's why we actually start with that in like 6th grade so that we can hopefully build some of those skills so that the refusal skills as they get older are easier, right? Because they have reasons and they have ways to kind of avoid any kind of substance use because they know how to resist them, and how to deal with stress in a proper, healthy way so that they're not, just going to a substance to help solve their problems. But I think if you start to see a youth who is kind of detaching from their normal friend group, who's maybe isolating and being a little bit more quiet into themselves, but then you can have the opposite where they're being irrational and they're acting out. So it's mainly a behavior change. So if you're seeing a pretty dramatic behavior change within your student, it doesn't mean automatically that, there's a substance involved, but there could be high stress involved.
Yeah.
And I think a conversation is always the first piece of the cure. Like we have to get down to the bare bones of why things are happening. And we have to talk with our students. Like if you look at the statistics, the number one reason why youth in our community choose not to use a substance is because they think that their parents would be disappointed. And then you turn around and you ask the kids how many of them have had conversations with their parents about substances, and it's like 0. So
that's terrifying.
It's so scary because if our parents aren't talking, like, yeah, it can be an uncomfortable conversation, but in order to set expectations and what you expect your youth to have, like you have to have those conversations. And the kids want the conversations. They're going to pretend like they don't, and they're going to make it hard for you. But like those conversations are so important to have, and understanding expectations and why they'd want them to avoid substances and, their goals for each other and what that looks like. But it's sad, and we've held Talk About It Tuesdays every, one Tuesday a month for the last, I don't know how many months. We try to circulate through different topics, and we just don't have any parents come. And we try to change our strategies of I know that there's a lot going on and sports and all of those things, but we're missing a really key component, and that's that parent piece. And everybody wants to, something will happen and people will be up in arms, why aren't we doing this? And it's we are. I promise. We have been. Hi, let me introduce myself again. Those conversations are so vital and important. And I hope that if anybody listens to this and is encouraged by anything, it's to have a conversation with your kids about substances. It's so important because if they're not getting the information from you and from an educated source, they're going to get it from somewhere else. Hopefully they're learning all of the things from us, the dangers, but, they're going to become educated by their friends or their friends' parents who maybe have more lax thoughts than you do. So those conversations are important.
Yeah. There's a big correlation between the behavior shifts for the youth and teens that are struggling with substance abuse and young adults and teens that are struggling with teen dating violence or witnessing abuse at home. And that behavior change is one of the first things we see, them getting closed off. And we're really trying to push the same thing. Have a conversation with your kids, put your kids first in those situations. And I remember being in school and hearing PACE come and talk in Red Ribbon Week and all of those things. They were impactful for me, but also being like you, a high achieving kid, all I wanted to do was make everybody proud and move on to the next step and get honor roll or whatever the next award was. But that stress was hard. And there's not only the stress of achieving, but then the stress of trying to fit in and be cool. And I mean, there was definitely propositions to have substance abuse while I was in school, trying to achieve all these things and get stress relief. But that fear of, oh my God, my parents are going to find out, or being in a small community was, I think, kind of scared me straight out of that. But it was, it was still an option. And especially in a small community, everybody, the kids, I'm sure, can find it easier than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, they definitely admit to being able to have ease of access and low perception of harm are two contributing factors to substance use in youth.
Yeah.
And that's because they feel like it's easy to find, easy to get a hold of, and they just don't think it's all that bad for them.
Yeah.
And the sad reality for the youth of today is that literally, there's campaigns of one pill can kill. And it's so true because there are so many dangerous and extremely potent drugs out there. From people who are wanting to lace things for a higher high. And unfortunately, that comes with deadly doses. And it's really, really important to educate our youth on what they put into their body, not just in, in whatever form really, but pill form especially is one that's really scary, because that one is just connected so quickly to so many tragic deaths, to the point where they call it poisonings now instead of overdoses, because people are ingesting what they think is one thing and consuming something else, and have deadly doses. And it's really sad to see. But I think if we educate people on what that could look like, and to make sure that they're making smart choices, we're hopefully curving that unfortunate end.
Yeah. And I think our influx of technology and social media makes that harder, and pop culture. Yeah, culture, because I mean, all the music videos or songs and TikToks, everything is look at this new product, look at this, or even in the music videos, they're posting somebody's smoking a joint or doing something. And the same goes for domestic violence. It's so heightened, and we're seeing in our office, I don't know if you've noticed it, but we're seeing like girls post, they're proud to be a la toxica, like the toxic girlfriend, and like it's glorified to be toxic. So and we're seeing an increase in that, just people wanting to, it's funny and fun to be toxic and to, tell them to unfollow people or
to get the attention. Yeah, it's a lot of pressures. Our kids face our youth face a lot of pressures today that we didn't really even have to, and we're not that old.
No.
Like, I haven't been out of high school that long, but yeah, some of the, I think, contributing factors to DV and to substance abuse is 100% social media, trying to fit in those peer pressures, the stress that is involved, and just not being able to feel like you. And I think that can be true a lot for a small town. Like in larger areas, like I went to school in Southern California where my graduating class was 400 plus, right? And that's about the size of Parker High. So, you find your cliques and you find your people, and, even in large crowds, you're able to kind of suss that out. But in a smaller school, if you don't feel like people understand you, then that's another reason to kind of step back and feel like you grow apart from people and are looking for other ways to entertain your time and to put your focus into. And these youth, man, they have a lot of pressures that society throws their way. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think social media is a huge proponent of that. And it's really tragic to see.
I couldn't imagine the pressure it feels to be a teen now. I thought I was under a lot of pressure when I was in high school, but I mean, we didn't really have, I think we had maybe Snapchat, maybe.
Right.
Like,
that's one of my very favorite quotes that I ever heard at one of my prevention conferences is a lady once told me that when she talks to parents, she reminds me that although you may have been 16, you were never 16 today.
Yes.
You were never 16 in 2025. And I think that's so powerful for parents to hear, because I think often, I know that we do it in our personal relationships. I do it with my husband all the time. We don't validate the way that people are feeling and how things affect them in stress, right? So, everything is a competition, naturally or unconsciously. It's like, oh, I had such a stressful day. Oh, well, you had a stressful day. Think about my day. And I think parents often do that because as adults, we can see from the outside of like, oh, girl, no, you have it easy. Like, if I could go back to high school, sure, let's do it. Like, how much less stress I have, even when I was high stressed. But what that does is it doesn't validate the stress that they are feeling. And so one of the things and pieces of advice I always try to give our parents when we talk to them is don't devalue the feelings that your teens are sharing with you. Don't tell them that they're wrong or that something didn't stress them out. Like, you don't know how that actually affected them. And instead of saying, oh, we'll just wait, or, throwing out one of those quips, listen to what they have to say and try to help them problem solve, or ask them if they want to problem solve. I often I often have to tell my husband, because I'm a fixer. I'm like, oh, I'm going to fix this problem. I have to often ask like, hey, do you want me to help you solve this problem, or do you just want me to listen? And that can be just a powerful statement when you talk too, because maybe a youth just wants to get something off their chest and they don't want to get lectured about it. And not every conversation has to turn into a lecture or a learning point. It could just be an opportunity to build communication with your child. So I think that's really important too, but definitely validating feelings and then understanding what conversation you need to have in the moment can be really powerful, because their stress is different than what we had at that time, and it affects them differently.
Absolutely. That kind of leads me into my next question. So what advice or other advice would you give to parents to start to have open, judgment-free conversations with their youth and teens about drugs, alcohol, healthy relationships? How could they go about having those conversations?
I think the very first step is to establish that communication in as much of a judgment-free way as possible. With parents, again, like kind of how we were talking about, it's like they want to fix the problem, right? They want to solve the problem for their baby. Oftentimes, they'll start to try to we've had instances where parents will grab the phone and start texting the people back, and it's like you have to step away from that. Yeah. And so the number one piece of advice I would give to parents is to have the conversation, to not be afraid to approach the conversation, and primarily to set expectations. If we don't set expectations for the behaviors that we expect our youth to have, we cannot expect them to behave in the way that we want them to, or that you assume that they're going to. I grew up in a household where it was you know better and you will do better, and which was fine from the way my brain worked. But, a teenage girl doesn't want to have that conversation with her dad about anything, whether it's, a sexual partner or substance use or friends and drama and things of that nature. Those conversations kind of went unhad. And although it might feel awkward now, there are opportunities in the future where not having those conversations could put your child at risk in a lot of ways by not educating them on what's happening in the real world and things that they might be seeing. So one, have the conversation. Don't be afraid to talk about hard things, but two, set expectations for how you expect your youth to act, and to respond and to be a human in the world, because otherwise they're going to find expectations from different places, and we can't hold them to a standard that we haven't set. That's unfair. It's not fair to the youth. It's not fair to you as a parent. So setting expectations and boundaries, I think, is just really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can agree with me on this, that being busy definitely helps keep you out of trouble.
Absolutely.
What kind of impact have you seen in our youth? I know you guys run the Youth for Youth Coalition, like we have S Club here. When our youth are empowered to take leadership in prevention, what kind of impact have you seen with that?
Oh, I think it's a huge dramatic impact, right? So, even my personal lifestyle, I was a 3-sport varsity athlete. I did all of the hard classes. I was involved in all of the clubs, and keeping someone busy gave me the opportunity to utilize a resistance strategy that's my favorite, is that come up with an excuse or that I have something better to do.
Yes.
And so, when you have downtime and you have idle time, that creates more time for negative things to happen. And it creates more times and opportunities for substance use and all kinds of other things to kind of pop up. So if we can keep our kids busy, not overwhelmed, but busy in their time commitments where they need to be, I think it's a huge impact. But we've had youth over the years where we've taken them to Washington, D.C. and done leadership conferences. One of our students years back became a trainer at the youth level and at a national level, right? And we have youth who have talked to our local representatives, who have talked to state representatives and representatives in DC. And I think you can see the fire in their eyes and the passion when you give them a platform to speak.
Yeah.
And especially against something that they feel really passionate about. Youth understand how things are affecting them. And a lot of youth are frustrated that their friends are putting things in their bodies that are harmful to them because they want to do better. They want to do more. They want to be better. And I think encouraging them and giving them the platform. We utilize what we call youth-led, adult-advised models of behavior for our youth groups. So we're there as a support. Youth for Youth is a club on campus at Parker High. We also do a lot of things outside. We have an adult advisor, Zach Kom, and his job is to make what they want to do happen, right? So they come up with the ideas, they come up with the action plans. We can be a guiding voice. We can say, hey, this is the information you might need, and we'll provide all of that to them. But we just want to empower them to make the choices and to do the things so that they get done and that they also have the skills to do it later in life, right? Like I was a student body president. And then when I went to college, fun fact, I was in a sorority whose philanthropy was victims of domestic violence. So we raised money and we did activities for shelters in Davis, California. Nice. And there's such a difference and a connection when you can empower someone to feel like they know what the next step is going to be and how they can positively make an impact at the next level because they have the support and they had the background to do it younger.
Yeah.
Right?
Can you talk a little bit about Youth for Youth? Tell us what that is.
Yeah. So Youth for Youth is a youth coalition. It started actually in 1996. It was a 4-H club, community-based. And then more recently, we are now a club at Parker High School. The Youth for Youth students are a substance abuse prevention coalition. They're kind of a sub-coalition of PACE, our adult coalition, but they do a lot of community service projects across the community. They do a lot of education pieces. Next Friday, they're actually doing, they're coinciding with a marijuana presentation with Zach. So they're going to co-facilitate 2 Parker High School students. So they're going to be doing peer-to-peer programming, and they're really excited about that. But they work a lot with the younger kids. We have a lot of things rolling with Youth for Youth at the moment. A lot of go-getter kids who really want to make an impact with some of the youth. They do a lot of our pieces for Red Ribbon Week, and they have a haunted house that's going to be happening at the pool house. These kiddos have put a lot of work into the community and things that they're doing.
Yeah, we have some of the Youth for Youth members also in S Club, and they are some of our hardest workers. I mean,
I know these kids wear a lot of hats.
They definitely do. I want to touch on teen dating violence briefly. So Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month is in February, but we kind of talked about the intersection between it a little bit, but I want your opinion on, obviously we try and do as much education as possible, but what are some other ways that our schools and our community as a whole can educate our teens on both teen dating violence and substance misuse?
I think it's all about community cooperation, right? So I would say that I feel like our 2 agencies work really well together, and I think it's all about supporting one another. We actually were laughing about it before we started today, was that how October is, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but it's also Substance Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. And we have enough respect for one another that we try to not only support each other's programs that are happening, but also the time, right? So you guys drape the town in purple, and then we wait until a week before Red Ribbon Week and start draping the town in red ribbons. And so I think it's fostering what I like to call collaboration instead of competition.
Absolutely.
I think that there is so much space always for as much education and information that we can get out to the community, and not one is more important than the other. They all intersect, and they need that space to be able to show the connectiveness. And I think when you can start to create, kind of to your point, if you can start to create links of logic, right? Especially for teens, if you can create a link to say, hey, we celebrated Red Ribbon Week. We understand substance abuse prevention. We're moving into teen dating violence. This can be a risk factor for teen dating violence. And let's utilize some of the resistance strategies and the skills that we've learned to resist substances to also be able to voice our concerns if we see teen dating violence happen, right? And a lot of that is encouraging youth to communicate with one another. to not be afraid to point out when they see something and to say something, to know what trusted adults that they need to talk to and to refer maybe their friends to or their resources. And I think that's the intersection, right? Is that there's always something happening. There's always an instance, like we are, one person away from knowing what is going on with everything, right? And especially in a small town. So if you know something and you're concerned about something, if someone were to reach out to me about a teen dating violence issue, I would contact you right away and say, like, what resources do we have, and vice versa. And I think that's important, is establishing ourselves as organizations in our community with trusted adults that youth can talk to, and we can try to find them resources that will help our teens just be better and to thrive, right? We don't want to just survive.
It's hard out here.
It's hard in these streets.
We, like you mentioned, both of our awareness months fall on the same time. I love that because I know our agency, like you said, we try and paint Parker purple. But in preparation for Red Ribbon Week, we try and engage as much as we can. And that's why we don't make our events happen during Red Ribbon Week, because we feel that it, like you said, not one is more important than the other. They both deserve to have the spotlight. And I know Red Ribbon Week is coming up.
It is.
Can you tell us a little bit about it and why it's important?
Yes. So Red Ribbon Week is actually a week that was created in memory of Kiki Camarena. So Kiki Camarena was a DEA agent who worked undercover. He was working in the Mexican cartels and was unfortunately murdered in his line of work. And so what happened was, in order to keep Kiki's memory alive and the great work that he was doing, his friends and families decided to start wearing red satin ribbons and to promote an understanding and a week full of education for people to see the negative effects of substances and how we can work together as a community and come together to make positive impact and to educate people. So the Red Ribbon Week campaign is actually celebrating 40 years this year. And so we're a little, I don't know what the word is, but La Paz County Red Ribbon Week is always kind of like the rebels. We don't go with the national theme. We always create our own theme. And so this year our theme is celebrating our drug-free eras, because we're celebrating 30 years of PACE, 40 years of Red Ribbon Week. But it does happen at the end of the month. And I have to say, Red Ribbon Week does not happen without the tremendous support of this community. We have a week full of activities. I was doing banners this morning, and I think we have over like 20 businesses who are just participating in the incentive calendar. So every youth gets a wristband, thanks to the Colorado River Indian Tribes. They sponsored all wristbands this year. So they get an individual wristband that they get to go take to all of these different businesses. And they get really cool free items, which is not the point of Red Ribbon Week, but it's kind of a little cool introduction piece. We have a Spirit Day or Spirit Week that happens during Red Ribbon Week. That actually kind of came out of COVID, but it stuck around because people seem to really like it. So it's what we call the virtual Spirit Week, but a lot of the schools have been participating in the week in person, which is great. But every day on the PACE Facebook page, we'll have a post, and then anybody across the entire county can dress up for the Spirit Day and post a picture of themselves and then be entered to win a gift certificate. So Monday is the 20s and 30s. Monday is 20s, 30s. Tuesday is 50s, 60s. Wednesday is Wear Red Wednesday. Thursday is 70s and 80s. And Friday is the 90s and 2000s and beyond. So those are the dress up days. We're going to have all kinds of competitions. We have business decorating competitions. The schools all do door decorating competitions. We have poster contest winners. We have, and trying to keep track of all this stuff is crazy. And I don't have anything in front of me too. This is all just from my mind. We often do some kind of parade and bouse. I'm not sure what that's going to look like this year. We are going to be participating in like the Ehrenberg trunk or treat with some Red Ribbon Week activities, because of course Halloween falls during that week too. We'll be at the Parker trunk or retreat doing Red Ribbon Week things. We'll be at Siloam Elementary School doing some presentations and assemblies throughout the week. We go to every single one of our Parker Unified schools and do games at lunch and giveaways. And then it all comes together at Family Fun Day, which happens, it's happening this November 2nd from 2 to 5. And last year, I think we had 30 plus agencies who participated. We had over 800 people. The wind kind of knocked our numbers down from the years before. But pre-COVID, we had like 1,200 people. So that's kind of what we're fighting for again. But we have some amazing prizes that we're going to be giving away. We have some incredible agencies that are going to be giving away great information and providing games and fun freeness to play. Everything's completely free at Family Fun Day. We provide a hot dog and drink. We provide games and music. We provide all of these giveaway prizes. We're going to have a community survey this year as well, which will be a good opportunity for people to have their voice heard. But Red Ribbon Week is something else out here.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I love it and I'm all for it.
That's awesome. So you kind of mentioned the activities that's going on. How can our listeners get involved, show support? What's your guys' Facebook page? How can they get involved in all these activities?
Yeah, so our Facebook page is just at PACE on Facebook, Parker Alliance for Community Empowerment. Our website is pace.org. So we have some of the information there as well. But quite frankly, the easiest and best way that people can get involved in Red Ribbon Week is to show up and show out at either Family Fun Day or with their business, right? So even just putting, we do the business decorating competition because it's fun, but the real point of that competition and the real point of putting ribbons on every, door and every business is to show that our community supports the mission that we are working on, and that they support why we do Red Ribbon Week. And it's not just for all the fun pieces, but it's to bring awareness to something that impacts just every single person. Because if you don't know someone directly who utilized a substance in the past or maybe suffering from substance abuse, they know someone, right? So it's like you're just really a person away from a lot of these issues. And by being able to show kind of solidarity and show how our tiny little town can come together and really paint the community red after we paint it purple, right? Is really helpful. And it's just one way that you can show the youth in our community that you understand what they're going through and that you understand that we as a community can come together for things. And so simply just a red ribbon, I think, makes a difference. And if you need one, come find me. I'll have them for you.
So what message do you hope the community takes away from Red Ribbon Week?
I hope overall that the community takes away the fact that we are a community and that we can come together for issues that are bigger than ourselves, which I think is hard to do in today's day and age and our climate that we're in. But I think no matter what, at the end of the day, we can work and we can educate with one another about substances and about things that plague our families and our friends and the people that we love, and provide entertainment and education on something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. So I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit. I know in the beginning you mentioned you guys have all of these programs and everything you guys have going on. How can people get involved in these programs? And are there any programs that you didn't get to mention that you'd like to plug and push?
Everything and everything. We do. I would love to see some more participation in our Talk About It Tuesdays. We provide tacos, people, free tacos. Talk About It Tuesday is something that we started doing to encourage parents to come get information without their youth present, so that they can be kind of in tune with trends that are happening in our community, things that we're seeing across the state. And those presentations vary between social media with Snapchat. We have a great presentation there. We can do stuff on stress, alcohol, marijuana, vaping, what these different things look like, fentanyl, naloxone. We are able to provide informational programs to organizations who maybe need to be educated on fentanyl and receive naloxone. We can do that for you. The PACE parenting program is currently happening in Quartzsite at the moment. But we will be having a couple new sessions coming up in some of our other communities. So keep an eye out on the Facebook page for where we will be next with that. But I think overall, the main thing that I would love for people to hear and to be able to support is we get a great turnout for the fun things that we do. And we love doing the fun things. But we as an organization are going to be unable to provide the fun things if people don't attend what they might consider the not as fun things, right? So our grants are funded for us to educate people on important issues in the community. And when we don't have people who come to those events, then we have less opportunity to create the super fun ones.
Yes.
So participation is everything. Nothing that we do costs any kind of money whatsoever. We try to provide as many free things as possible to the community. But if you really would like to support PACE and the mission that we're working on, please come to a presentation. Please attend one of the programs that we have going on, because at some point those go away if we can't provide the numbers of attendance to people in the community. And I think that's not always something that people hear or maybe want to hear. But it's so important and vital to a lot of the work that we're doing, because it's all funded based on reach and who we can contact to. And we want to make sure that we're getting that information to people, but that's the best way that you can support.
Awesome. So as we close, do you have any final message or anything that you'd like to say to our listeners as we recognize both DVAM and Red Ribbon Week?
First, I just want to say thanks for having me. This is a blast. I could talk for days, unfortunately for you.
Me too.
No, I think just the overall message, first and foremost, is that, we are excited that we're celebrating 30 years. And I'm very proud to have been a part of 10 of them, which is really fun to say. PACE is not looking to stop anytime soon. We want to meet as many needs as possible. Please be kind. There's only like 5 of us, and we're trying to serve the entire county. But if you have questions, if you have programs, we would love to be able to participate with you and to do what we can. I'm just only one person, which can be hard to remember sometimes. But ultimately, we're just really thankful for the community that we're in and the resources that we're able to provide for people who we can. And we just are excited to be here and thankful for, the opportunity to speak a little bit about PACE and what we do and to be able to be there for our kiddos, because that's why we do it all.
Absolutely. And how can people get a hold of you or PACE if they have any questions?
Yeah, so our PACE phone number is 928-669-0175. You can call anytime. One of us is probably there. If not, leave a message. You can contact me by email, Courtney, Courtney, .pace, PAACE, @gmail.com. You can visit our website at pace.org, or you can stop by the Players 9th Street Youth Center anytime, Monday through Friday, basically 7 to 6 at 1309 9th Street, and just come say hi.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Courtney.
Thanks for having me.
This was so much fun.
When you're ready to talk, call 888-499-0911. You can also reach out at our website, www.crrcs.com. You can email us at canwetalk@crrcs.com. And you can always follow us on our social medias, Facebook and Instagram.
Cuando estés listo para hablar, nos puedes contactar al número 888-499-0911. También por nuestra página a www.crrcs.com, o los puedes contactar en nuestras páginas sociales en Facebook o Instagram.
Help.
Hope.
Healing.